One of the questions that often get asked at St. Patrick's is, why does the priest face away from the people during the Eucharistic prayer? Why does he turn his back to them? Well, to understand that, you've got to understand a little bit about church history and how churches used to be built. Churches used to be built with an eastward-facing back wall. So this wall that is behind me here would have faced east. East is the direction from which the sun rises. East was also the direction of Jerusalem. And so the idea was not so much that the priest was turning his back on the people, but that the priest and the people together were facing the same direction, facing, if you will, God together. So ad Orientem, which is this type of setup with the altar against the wall like that, was to call to mind that type of theology and to continue to sort of speak that kind of theology to the people. After Vatican II and a lot of the liturgical reforms that grew out of Vatican II, altars in many liturgical churches began to be pulled out from the wall so that the priest would stand behind them and face the people and celebrate. That's called versus populum. And many Anglican churches still practice versus populum. There's nothing particularly wrong with it. So both are ways of celebrating. Both you'll see in faithful Anglican churches. But in answer to the question as to why do we do this ad Orientem, that's why. One other image that sort of stands out that people have brought up before is that the book of Revelation culminates in the marriage feast of the Lamb. And so one way to look at this ad Orientem setup with the altar against the wall, and this gets a little Doctor Who-ish, is that the idea that the marriage feast of the Lamb, the table of that feast, has broken into our time and space, and we see the end of that table there represented by the altar, and that the rest of the marriage feast of the Lamb's banquet table continues through that wall and into eternity. So that's another image that you can sort of use with that type of setup. So if I can answer any other questions, if you have questions that would be helpful to know the answers to, I will do my best to answer them. Please leave them in the comments below. And I hope to see you Sunday at St. Patrick's.